Ambassador Kim Jun stood at the large window of the Earth Embassy on Centauri Station. He watched the stars and thought about his home. 3 years had passed since he began representing humanity to the Galactic Council. Most alien species looked at humans with a mix of pity and curiosity. They saw humans as primitive creatures from a deadly planet who somehow managed to build spaceships. Kim sighed. The aliens called Earth a Class 12 Deathworld. This was their term for planets with extreme conditions. To most alien races, Earth was a nightmare world of natural disasters, changing seasons, and dangerous animals. Kim found it funny that what humans called normal weather made other species tremble with fear. A soft beep from his desk interrupted his thoughts. Kim turned and walked to his computer. A new message had arrived from the Galactic Council. He opened it and his eyes widened with surprise. "An invitation?" he said out loud, though no one else was in the room. "To the Deathworld Summit?" Kim read the message twice to make sure he understood. The Galactic Council rarely paid attention to species from harsh planets. The Council preferred to focus on what they called civilized worlds, planets with stable, unchanging environments. These were Class 3 planets and below. Yet here was an official invitation for Earth to join the first-ever meeting of species from dangerous planets. Kim felt a mix of pride and suspicion. Why now, after years of being treated as less important? The door to his office slid open. Toral, a diplomat from the planet Viridia, entered. Toral stood nearly 7 feet tall with green, scale-covered skin. His species evolved from reptile-like creatures. "Ambassador Kim," Toral said with a small bow. "I see you've received the invitation." "Yes, just now," Kim replied. "I must admit, I'm surprised. The Council has never shown much interest in Deathworld species before." Toral's face showed what passed for a smile in his species. "The Council is always evolving, Ambassador. This summit will discuss how to safely gather resources from hostile environments. Since your species has experience with such conditions, the Council thought your perspective might be valuable." Kim understood what Toral wasn't saying. Humans were being invited as consultants, as curiosities to study rather than equals to respect. The Galactic Council thought of humans as primitive but useful, like interesting tools. "We would be honored to attend," Kim said with a polite smile. "I'll bring a small team of our environmental experts." "Excellent," Toral replied. "The summit begins in 3 standard weeks on Neldora. Transportation will be arranged." After Toral left, Kim immediately called Earth. He needed to assemble the right team for this opportunity. This wasn't just about sharing knowledge. It was about showing the galaxy what humans were truly capable of. 4 days later, Kim welcomed his team as they arrived at Centauri Station. He had chosen each member carefully. Dr. Lee Minjae stepped off the transport first. She was Earth's top expert in terraforming, the science of changing planets to make them livable. Small in stature with short black hair framing a serious face, Dr. Lee had transformed parts of Mars from barren wasteland to farmable land. Her work was legendary on Earth but unknown to the wider galaxy. "Ambassador Kim," she said with a respectful nod. "Thank you for this opportunity. I've brought my latest research on adaptive ecosystems." Next came Captain Park Doyen, a tall man with broad shoulders and a confident walk. Park had led the 3rd Mars colony through its hardest years when dust storms nearly destroyed their settlement. He had saved over 300 lives through quick thinking and brave leadership. "Good to see you again, Ambassador," Park said, shaking Kim's hand firmly. "I've been wanting to meet these aliens who think Earth is so terrible." The final member of the team was Han Ji-woo, a brilliant young engineer who specialized in creating technology that worked in extreme conditions. Her innovations helped people survive in the harshest places on Earth, from the burning deserts to the frozen poles. "I brought some of my prototypes," she said excitedly, patting her large bag. "Nothing too advanced, just practical solutions for survival." Kim led the team to the conference room of the Earth Embassy. As they sat around the table, he explained the true purpose of their mission. "The Galactic Council sees this summit as a way to gather information," Kim said. They're inviting us because they see us as primitive survivors who might have useful tricks to share. They have no idea what humans are truly capable of. So they pity us, Dr. Lee said with a frown. Yes, Kim nodded. Most species in the Council evolved on worlds with stable conditions. No seasons, no natural disasters, very few predators. They believe species from harsh worlds like ours must be stronger physically, but less advanced mentally. Captain Park laughed. They think we're all brawn and no brains. Exactly, Kim replied. This summit is our chance to change that view. We need to show them that facing challenges doesn't make a species primitive. It makes them adaptable and innovative. Han Jiwoo leaned forward, her eyes bright with excitement. We can show them that human technology isn't less advanced. It's more versatile. Their machines might work perfectly in controlled environments, but ours work everywhere. That's the goal, Kim agreed. We're not going to this summit just to share information. We're going to demonstrate that humanity deserves respect as equals. Over the next 2 weeks, the team prepared for the summit. They studied the other species who would attend, from the massive armored Drakari who evolved on a high-gravity world, to the crystalline Volturi who survived on a radiation-soaked moon. The day before their departure to Neldora, Kim gathered his team for a final briefing. Remember, he said seriously, the Council species don't understand us. They see our need for water and food every few hours as a weakness. They view our sleep cycles as a defect. They don't understand why we would explore dangerous places or take risks. They don't understand humanity's greatest strength, Dr. Lee added, adaptability. Exactly, Kim nodded. Tomorrow we begin showing the galaxy what that really means. As the team boarded their ship the next morning, Kim felt a sense of purpose. The Galactic Council had invited humans to the Deathworld Summit, thinking they were bringing in primitive consultants. They had no idea they were about to meet the most adaptable species in the galaxy. The humans were coming, and nothing in the galaxy would be the same after they arrived. The human delegation's ship landed smoothly on Neldora, a beautiful world with purple skies and gentle rolling hills covered in rainbow-colored plants. Unlike Earth with its changing weather and seasons, Neldora was perfect all the time. No storms, no cold, no heat waves, just endless pleasant days. Ambassador Kim Jun led his team down the ship's ramp. A group of tall, slender aliens waited for them. These were the Neldorians, the planet's native species. They had pale blue skin and large, worried eyes. Behind them stood several other alien groups, all watching the humans with curiosity. "Welcome to Neldora," said the lead Neldorian, a nervous-looking official named Eleth. "We have prepared environmental suits for your comfort and safety." Eleth gestured to a rack of clear bubble helmets and full-body protection suits. The aliens clearly expected the humans to need help breathing their air or walking on their planet. Captain Park Doyen looked at the suits and smiled politely. "Thank you for your concern, but we won't need those. Your atmosphere is quite comfortable for us." Eleth blinked rapidly, a sign of confusion in Neldorian body language. "But the atmospheric composition, the gravity, the local microbes, are all well within our tolerance range," finished Dr. Lee Minjae with a warm smile. "Humans are quite adaptable. Your air has enough oxygen for us, and your gravity is actually a bit lighter than Earth's," the gathered aliens whispered among themselves. None of them had expected the humans to step off their ship without protection. To them, any world not exactly like their home was dangerous and required special equipment. "As you wish," Eleth said, nervously. "Please follow me to the conference center. The other delegations are already arriving." As the humans walked through the Neldorian capital city, they saw it was built for perfect safety. No sharp edges anywhere. No stairs, only gentle ramps. No open flames or anything that could possibly cause harm. Coming from Earth with its mountains, oceans, and natural dangers, the city felt strangely fake to the humans. The conference center was a huge dome made of a crystal-like material. Inside, representatives from 17 different Deathworld species had gathered. The sight was impressive. Each species looked completely different from the others. The Drakari were massive 8-foot-tall beings covered in natural armor plates. They came from a high-gravity world with toxic air. They moved slowly and deliberately. The Volturi looked like walking diamonds. These crystalline beings evolved on a moon bathed in deadly radiation. Light sparkled through their bodies when they moved. The Tenzari floated in special tanks. They breathed methane and came from a world so cold that water was always frozen solid. Their bodies looked like blue jellyfish. Every species had obvious adaptations for their deadly homeworlds: armor, scales, special breathing equipment, or protective bubbles. Yet it was the humans who drew the most curious glances. They looked so normal, so unprotected. They had no claws, no armor, no special abilities that anyone could see. "Welcome to the first Deathworld Summit," announced a Galactic Council representative, a floating being who lived on a gas giant planet. "Over the next 5 days, we will share knowledge about surviving in harsh environments. Each delegation will present information about their homeworld and their adaptations." The presentations began with the Drakari. They showed images of their planet, a place with crushing gravity and constant toxic storms. They explained how their natural armor and dense muscles helped them survive. The Volturi described their radioactive moon and showed how their crystalline bodies actually absorbed radiation as food one by one. Each species explained the horrors of their worlds and the specific biological adaptations that let them live there. When it was humanity's turn, Captain Park stood to present. He activated a holographic display showing Earth. "This is our homeworld," he said. "What you're seeing is called the Pacific Ocean, one of several massive bodies of water that cover most of our planet." The aliens murmured in shock. Most species feared large amounts of water. "In this region," Park continued, pointing to the screen, "we have what we call tropical storms. Winds can reach speeds that would destroy most structures. And here," he moved his hand across the display, "we have areas called deserts, where temperatures rise so high that exposure without water can kill within hours." The room grew quiet. Park continued to the next image. "This is what we call the Arctic region. Temperatures drop so low that water freezes solid. And here," he changed the display again, "are our mountain ranges where oxygen levels decrease with height and temperatures can swing from extremely hot to freezing cold in a single day." "You're saying all these conditions exist on a single world?" asked Kezra, the hulking representative from the Drakari. "Yes," Park nodded. "Earth has incredible diversity. We have active volcanoes, earthquake zones, violent storms, predatory animals, extreme temperature ranges, and changing seasons all on one planet." "And your species evolved naturally with all these conditions?" asked another alien in disbelief. "We did," Dr. Lee confirmed. "In fact, we call it biodiversity. These varying conditions created millions of different plant and animal species on Earth. It's one of our planet's greatest strengths." "But how do you survive?" asked Eleth the Neldorian. "You have no natural armor, no special breathing organs, no obvious adaptations." Hanjiwu, the young engineer, smiled. "Our adaptation is here," she said, tapping her head. "Human brains. We survive because we problem solve, we build tools, we change our environment when needed, and we adapt our behavior to new challenges." The alien representatives looked confused. This was not the kind of adaptation they understood. To them, adaptation meant physical changes to bodies over millions of years. "Let me give you an example," Han continued. She pulled a small device from her bag. "This is a portable water purifier I designed. With this, a human can drink safely from almost any water source. We don't need to evolve special digestive systems. We use our technology." She held up a thin jacket next. "This material can keep a human warm in freezing conditions or cool in extreme heat. We don't need fur or scales that change with the weather. We create what we need." The aliens examined the items with growing interest. These were such simple solutions, yet so effective. During the dinner that followed the presentations, the human delegation found themselves surrounded by curious representatives from other species. Questions came from all sides. "Your cities must be completely enclosed for protection, yes?" asked a Tenzari. "Actually, no," Kim explained. "Most human cities are open to the environment. We build to withstand local conditions, but we don't try to shut nature out completely. But how do you handle natural disasters? Asked Kezra. We prepare for them, Captain Park answered. We build warning systems, emergency shelters, and response teams. When disasters happen, we rebuild and learn from them. By the end of the first day, the other delegations were regarding the humans with newfound wariness and respect. They had come expecting to meet fragile beings who somehow survived a deadly world. Instead, they met a species that not only survived their harsh planet, but thrived there because of their adaptability. As Ambassador Kim prepared for sleep that night, another concept that confused many of the alien species, he smiled to himself. This was only the beginning. The Galactic Council had no idea what humans were truly capable of, and tomorrow, they would learn even more. On the third day of the summit, the atmosphere had changed. The other species no longer looked at the humans with pity. Now they watched them with caution and growing respect. The human delegation had spent the previous day attending presentations and asking smart questions that impressed the other representatives. Ambassador Kim Jun entered the main conference hall with his team. Today's schedule mentioned a special event, but the details were vague. As the humans took their seats, the head council representative floated to the center of the room. Distinguished delegates, the council representative began. Today we will conduct a practical demonstration of survival techniques. Each species will show their adaptation abilities in our environmental chamber. The representative gestured toward a massive door at the far end of the hall. This chamber can simulate various harsh conditions. Each delegation will send representatives inside. The chamber will cycle through different extreme environments. You may exit when conditions exceed your tolerance. This will help us understand the practical limits of different species. The aliens buzzed with excitement. This was their chance to show off their special adaptations. The Drakari flexed their armored bodies, confident they would dominate pressure tests. The Volturi glittered, ready to demonstrate their radiation resistance. The Tenzari bubbled in their tanks, knowing they would outlast everyone in cold environments. Who will represent humanity? The council representative asked, looking at the human delegation. Captain Park Do-yoon stood up immediately. I will. I'll go too, added Han Ji-woo, the young engineer. Dr. Lee Min-jae nodded. And I will join as well. The council representative seemed surprised. 3 representatives? Most species are sending only 1. Humans work well in teams, Ambassador Kim explained simply. As the representatives gathered near the chamber entrance, Han Ji-woo pulled a small backpack from under her seat. What is that? Asked Eleth, the Neldorian observer. Just some basic supplies, Han answered with a smile. Is that allowed? Eleth asked the council representative. The rules state that representatives may bring natural adaptations and basics, tools from their homeworld, the council representative confirmed. If these are standard human tools, they are permitted. The chamber was enormous inside, at least 100 meters across. The walls, floor, and ceiling could change to create different environments. The various species spread out, each finding their own space. Let the challenge begin, announced the council representative from behind a transparent barrier. First environment, high pressure. The chamber hummed. The air grew heavy. The pressure increased until it felt like standing under deep water. The humans felt their ears pop, but they remained standing. Captain Park showed the others a technique to equalize the pressure in their ears. 2 smaller alien species quickly left the chamber, unable to withstand the pressure. The Drakari, however, seemed completely comfortable, their armored bodies designed for a high-gravity world. Next environment, extreme heat, came the announcement. The chamber temperature rose rapidly. Soon it felt like standing in a desert at midday. Sweat poured down the humans' faces, but they remained calm. Han opened her backpack and pulled out 3 lightweight garments. What are those? Asked Zenith, the Volturi representative, whose crystalline body was unaffected by the heat. Cooling cloths, Han explained as she handed them to her teammates. When wet, they lower body temperature through evaporation. An ancient human technology, actually. The humans dampened the cloths with water bottles from Han's pack and draped them around their necks. Several more species left the chamber as The heat increased, but the humans stayed. Impressive adaptation, commented Kezra, the Drakari representative. Next environment, extreme cold, announced the council. The temperature plummeted. Frost formed on the walls. The humans quickly put on thin jackets from Han's pack. The jackets looked ordinary but contained advanced insulation material that trapped body heat. The Tenzari were completely comfortable in the cold, their methane environment naturally freezing. But several more species, including the Drakari, had to leave. Their adaptations were specific to their homeworlds and couldn't handle such different extremes. Next environment, low oxygen, came the announcement. The air in the chamber thinned. Breathing became difficult. The humans began to feel lightheaded, but they showed no panic. Dr. Lee guided her teammates through controlled breathing techniques. Breathe slowly and deeply, she instructed. This is similar to high altitude on Earth. We can adapt. More species exited, leaving only 6 different delegations in the chamber. Hour after hour, the chamber cycled through different conditions. High radiation, where the Volturi thrived. Toxic gases, where the humans used simple filter masks from Han's pack, and more. Each time, more species reached their limits and left. After 16 hours, only 3 species remained. The humans, the methane-breathing Tenzari, untroubled by the cold, and the crystalline Volturi, immune to radiation. Sandstorm environment, announced the council. The chamber filled with swirling particles, sharp enough to cut skin and clog breathing passages. The humans quickly donned goggles and simple breathing masks from Han's pack. Is that ancient technology? Asked Zenith the Volturi, whose crystalline body naturally filtered the particles. Sometimes the simplest solutions are the most effective, Han replied, voice muffled through the mask. We've been dealing with sandstorms for thousands of years. Even the council representatives were watching with interest now. The humans weren't specialized for any one condition like the other species, yet they had survived everything through a combination of natural adaptability and simple tools. When the council finally ended the challenge after 20 hours, 3 species remained, the Tenzari, the Volturi, and the humans. Each had survived using completely different methods. As they exited the chamber, exhausted but triumphant, the humans were met with a new level of respect from the other delegates. I don't understand, said a council representative, floating closer to examine the humans. Your bodies are so ordinary. You have no special adaptations we can see. Your skin is thin. Your bodies need constant water and food. You require specific temperatures and oxygen levels. By all measures, you should be the most fragile species here, yet you endured every environment. Ambassador Kim smiled. You're looking for the wrong kind of adaptation. Human bodies might not be specialized for extreme conditions, but our minds are. We've faced every disaster you simulated today, and many more throughout our history. We survived not by having the strongest bodies, but by finding solutions to every problem. But your technology seems so simple, said Eleth, looking at Han's backpack with its basic supplies. That's because we bring the right tools for each job, Han explained. We don't need complex technology when simple solutions work better. A piece of cloth can cool you in the heat. Goggles can protect your eyes in a storm. These aren't advanced technologies, but they're effective. Humans don't adapt our bodies to fit our environment, Captain Park added. We adapt our environment to fit our needs, or we create what we need to survive in it. The Galactic Council representatives gathered to discuss what they had witnessed. The other species moved around the humans, looking at them with new eyes. They had expected the humans to fail quickly in the challenge. Instead, they had demonstrated a completely different kind of strength. As the human team walked back to their quarters to rest, Dr. Lee smiled at her companions. Do you think they understand us now? She asked. They're beginning to, Ambassador Kim replied. But they still don't truly understand what humanity is capable of. Captain Park nodded in agreement. They've seen how we adapt to survive. Tomorrow, let's show them how we thrive. None of them knew that tomorrow would bring a real test, one no simulation could prepare for. The morning of the 5th day began normally. The human delegation ate breakfast in their quarters, discussing the day's schedule. Ambassador Kim Jun felt satisfied with their progress. The other species now showed them respect, especially after the Environmental Chamber Challenge. Today's topics focus on resource gathering in hostile environments, Dr. Lee Min-jae said, reviewing the agenda. I can share our sustainable mining techniques. Captain Park Doyen nodded. And I can talk about our water harvesting systems from Mars. Those might interest the desert world species. Suddenly, the floor beneath them trembled. The humans froze, instantly alert. Was that? Han Ji-woo began. An earthquake, Kim confirmed, his voice calm but serious. The trembling stopped, then started again, stronger this time. Objects fell from shelves. A crack appeared in one wall. A high-pitched alarm began to sound throughout the building. In the hallway, they could hear confused shouting from other delegates. Let's move, Captain Park said, taking charge naturally. Everyone grab your emergency gear. The humans quickly collected their bags and moved into the hallway. Chaos greeted them. Alien delegates rushed in every direction, many clearly panicking. The Neldorians looked especially terrified. Ambassador Kim stopped a passing Neldorian official. What's happening? He asked. The stabilizers, the official cried. The orbital stabilizers are failing. Kim turned to Dr. Lee. What does that mean? Neldora is a managed planet, Dr. Lee explained quickly. They use orbital technology to control the weather and prevent natural disasters. If those systems are failing, they're about to experience their first natural disaster, Kim finished her thought. A planet that's never had bad weather or earthquakes. Another tremor shook the building, stronger than before. Part of the ceiling collapsed at the far end of the hallway. Screams echoed from that direction. Without hesitation, Captain Park ran toward the screams. The other humans followed. They found a group of delegates trapped by fallen debris. The Drakari were using their strength to hold up a collapsed beam, but they couldn't move the debris and hold the beam at the same time. We need to create a stable support, Han said, quickly analyzing the situation. She looked around and spotted decorative metal poles. Those will work. Captain, help me. Together, they quickly created makeshift supports to replace the Drakari holding the beam. Once secured, everyone worked together to free the trapped delegates. The Emergency Coordination Center is on the lower level, the Neldorian official told them, still shaking with fear. But I don't know what they can do. We have no experience with earthquakes. Ambassador Kim made a quick decision. Take us there, he said firmly. The emergency center was in complete chaos. Neldorian officials stared at screens showing problems across the entire planet. Weather patterns were changing rapidly. Storms were forming. Ground movement was increasing. For a species that had always lived in perfect conditions, it was overwhelming. We have to evacuate the planet, one council representative was saying. It's becoming a death world. There's no time to evacuate everyone, another argued. And where would we go? The human delegation stepped forward. Ambassador Kim spoke loudly to get their attention. We can help, he said. Humans have dealt with natural disasters for our entire history. The room fell silent as all eyes turned to the humans. This is what we do, Kim continued. Earth experiences earthquakes, storms, and climate shifts regularly. We know how to handle these situations. The head Neldorian administrator looked at them desperately. How can you help? Our cities weren't built for this. Captain Park stepped forward. First, we need to organize emergency teams. We need to identify safe zones and dangerous areas. We need communication systems to coordinate rescue efforts. Dr. Lee joined in. We need to create emergency shelters using available materials. My terraforming experience can help identify geologically stable areas. Han Ji-woo added, I can work with your engineers to create temporary stabilization for critical structures. And we need to set up water and food distribution points. The aliens stared at them in amazement. While everyone else panicked, the humans were calmly planning practical solutions. On Earth, we call this Tuesday. Kim said with a small smile, trying to lighten the mood. This is normal for us. We can handle this. The head administrator nodded. Slowly. Tell us what to do. What followed was a masterclass in human crisis management. The human delegation took control of the situation with practiced efficiency. Captain Park organized the strongest species, like the Drakari, into search and rescue teams. He created evacuation routes and protocols based on his Mars colony experience. Dr. Lee worked with Neldorian scientists to identify safe zones using her knowledge of geological stability. She showed them how to create emergency shelters using local materials. Han Jiwoo joined the Neldorian engineers at their orbital control center. Though their technology was different from Earth's, the principles were similar enough. She helped them stabilize some systems and create workarounds for others. Ambassador Kim coordinated everything, using his diplomatic skills to keep the different species working together despite their fear. As the day progressed, more tremors shook the planet. Storms formed in areas that had never seen rain before. Rivers changed course. It was terrifying for the Neldorians and other delegates, but the humans remained calm and focused. The council representatives watched in amazement as the supposedly primitive humans took command of the situation with practiced efficiency. How? Do you know what to do? One council member asked Kim as they monitored progress from the emergency center. Your species seems prepared for anything. Because we've faced it all before, Kim explained. Earth has thrown every disaster you can imagine at us. We learn to survive, then to prepare, then to adapt. It's in our nature. The most dramatic moment came when a building collapsed near the conference center, trapping several delegates inside. Without hesitation, Captain Park and Han rushed toward the danger. The building was unstable, creaking and shifting as aftershocks continued. It's too dangerous, called Kezra, the Drakari representative. Even our armored bodies could be crushed if that structure fully collapses. There are people inside, Park said simply, as if that explained everything. And to a human, it did. Using techniques developed over centuries of disaster response on Earth, Park and Han carefully entered the building. They found 3 Neldorians and a Volturi delegate trapped in an air pocket beneath fallen beams. Working together with rescue teams that arrived minutes later, they managed to extract everyone safely before the building completely collapsed. As they walked away from the destroyed building, covered in dust but successful in their mission, Kezra approached them. Why would you risk your lives? He asked in genuine confusion. Your bodies could have been easily destroyed. You have no natural protection against falling debris, because that's what humans do, Park said simply. We protect others. We run toward danger, not away from it. Kezra stared at them for a long moment. I believe I understand now. Your adaptation is not physical, it's behavioral. Han nodded. Partly. But it's more than that. Humans adapt physically, mentally, and socially. We work together. We solve problems. We take risks to help others. And we never, ever give up. As night fell, the worst of the crisis had been contained. The death toll was remarkably low thanks to the quick response and organization. Temporary shelters housed those displaced by damage. Emergency supplies were being distributed. The human delegation gathered briefly in a quiet corner of the emergency center. They were exhausted but satisfied. They're looking at us differently now, Dr. Lee observed, watching the aliens work alongside humans in the response effort. They should, Captain Park said. They invited us to learn how we survive our Deathworld. Now they're learning how we thrive on it. Ambassador Kim nodded thoughtfully. And tomorrow they'll learn what humans do after a disaster. What's that? Han asked. Kim smiled. We rebuild. Better than before. The morning after the crisis dawned with clear skies over Neldoria's capital city. The orbital stabilizers were partially working again, thanks to the combined efforts of Han Jiwoo and the Neldorian engineers. The earthquakes had stopped. The worst storms had passed. Now came the work of rebuilding. Ambassador Kim Jun stood with his team at the edge of the conference center plaza, surveying the damage. Buildings had cracked walls. Debris littered the streets. But thanks to their quick action, No one had died. In the capital. "What happens now?" asked Eleth, the Neldorian official who had first greeted them days ago. His voice trembled less today. He had worked alongside Captain Park Doyen in the rescue efforts and had grown stronger for it. "Now we rebuild," Kim said simply. "And we prepare for next time." "Next time?" Eleth looked alarmed. "You think this will happen again?" Dr. Lee Minje nodded gently. "Your orbital systems were designed hundreds of years ago. They're bound to fail occasionally. You need backup systems and emergency plans." "But our world has always been perfect," Eleth said sadly. "We never needed to prepare for disasters." "No world is perfect forever," Captain Park said. "Change is the only constant in the universe. The question isn't whether challenges will come, but how you'll face them when they do." All around them, other delegates from the summit were emerging from their shelters. Many had stayed to help during the crisis, inspired by the humans' example. The Drakari had used their strength to clear rubble. The Volturi had used their radiation resistance to check damaged power systems. The Tenzari had used their floating tanks to deliver supplies to isolated areas. "The original summit schedule has been cancelled," said a Galactic Council representative, floating toward the human delegation. "But the Council wishes to hold a closing ceremony today. Your presence is requested." Several hours later, all surviving delegates gathered in the conference center's main hall. Parts of the ceiling were damaged, but the structure had held. The hall had been quickly converted from a temporary shelter back to a meeting space. The head of the Galactic Council floated to the center of the room. Unlike the first day, there was no elaborate introduction, no long speeches. The crisis had stripped away such formalities. "Delegates of the Deathworld Summit," the council head began, "we gathered here to share knowledge about surviving hostile environments. We did not expect to face such an environment ourselves. Yesterday changed many things, including how the council views adaptation and survival." The room was silent. Everyone remembered their fear during the disaster. Everyone remembered who had led them through it. "We invited the humans to learn about surviving harsh conditions," the council head continued. "Instead, they taught us that true adaptation isn't just about biological specialization or advanced technology. It's about intelligence, cooperation, and courage." The council head turned toward the human delegation. "Ambassador Kim, would you and your team please step forward?" The four humans walked to the center of the room. They stood straight and dignified, despite their exhaustion from the previous day's efforts. "The Galactic Council hereby announces a new classification system for worlds," the council head declared. "We will no longer use the term Deathworld. Instead, we will recognize the evolutionary advantages that come from challenging environments. Earth will be classified as a crucible world, a planet whose challenges forge stronger species." A murmur of approval spread through the delegates. "Furthermore," the council head continued, "the council extends an invitation to humanity to join the Galactic Council as full members, with all rights and responsibilities that entails." Ambassador Kim's eyes widened slightly. This was unexpected. Humanity had been trying to gain council membership for years, but had always been dismissed as too primitive, too new to the galactic community. "We would be honored to accept," Kim said formally, bowing his head. As the ceremony concluded, representatives from a dozen worlds approached the human delegation with requests for cooperative ventures, technology exchanges, and diplomatic missions. Species that had barely acknowledged humans a week ago now sought their guidance. "Will you help us develop emergency response systems?" asked a Neldorian administrator. "Can you advise us on adaptable architecture?" inquired a delegate from a seismically active moon. "Would Earth accept exchange students from our world?" asked another. The humans answered each request patiently, promising what help they could provide. This was what they had hoped for, not just respect, but meaningful cooperation. As the crowd thinned, Kim found himself speaking with Toral, the Viridian diplomat who had initially extended the patronizing invitation to the summit. "I must apologize, Ambassador Kim," Toral said, his reptilian features solemn. We thought we were inviting consultants from a struggling species. We didn't realize we were inviting teachers." Kim smiled. "The mistake most species make about humans isn't underestimating our technology or our strength. It's underestimating our adaptability and our willingness to help others adapt too." "Why would you help us?" Taral asked, genuinely confused. "After how the Council treated humanity, ignoring your applications for membership for years, why would you risk your lives? To save ours during the crisis? Because that's what humans do," Kim said simply. "We protect, we help, we teach. It's as much a part of our nature as our ability to adapt." Later that day, as the human delegation prepared to return to Earth, they gathered one last time in their quarters. Despite their exhaustion, they felt a deep satisfaction in what they had accomplished. "Well," said Captain Park with a tired smile, "that wasn't the summit we expected." "It was better," Dr. Lee replied. "They needed to see humans in action, not just hear about us in presentations." Han Jiwoo, the young engineer, looked out the window at the city where repair work was already underway. "Do you think they finally understand us?" she asked. "I think they're starting to," Kim answered. "But they still have no idea what happens when humans decide to really apply themselves." He was right. By the next Galactic Standard Year, human representatives would be sitting on the Council itself. Human disaster response teams would be deployed to worlds facing crises. Human education methods would be studied across the galaxy. Human adaptability would become legendary. As their ship lifted off from Neldora, Ambassador Kim looked down at the planet below. The crisis had been unfortunate, but it had shown the galaxy what humanity truly offered. Not just survival skills, but leadership in the face of disaster. Not just adaptation to challenges, but the ability to help others adapt too. The Galactic Council had invited humans to the Deathworld Summit as an afterthought, a curious primitive species who might have a few survival tricks to share. They would never make that mistake again. In the years that followed, other species would learn what Earth had always known. Humans didn't just survive their challenging world. They were defined by it, strengthened by it, and prepared by it to face whatever the universe might throw at them. And the universe, much like the Galactic Council, would never be the same again.